everyone, and thank you for joining us today for an overview of anti-ransomware in ONTAP. I'm Dave Tanigawa. I'm a senior storage engineer with NetApp IT, and I'm joined today by my colleague and teammate, Faisal Salam. Faisal, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, everyone. My name is Faisal Salam. I'm a senior storage engineer with NetApp IT.
So today we're going to talk about ONTAP's anti-ransomware feature, which was introduced in ONTAP 9.10.1. And after a brief overview, Faisal will walk us through a quick demo. Security and data protection are top of mind for many organizations, and it's no different for us at NetApp IT. The anti-ransomware feature offers the capability to detect and warn about abnormal activity natively within ONTAP. So Faisal, let's get into it. What is the anti-ransomware feature in ONTAP, and what are the requirements for enabling it?
Yeah, so ransomware attacks are one of the top cybersecurity threats an organization can face. Starting ONTAP 9.10.1, the anti-ransomware feature in ONTAP uses workload analysis in NAS environments to proactively detect and warn about abnormal activity that might indicate a ransomware attack. So it leverages built-in on-box machine learning that looks at the volume, workload activity, plus data entropy to automatically detect ransomware. Now let's look at some of the requirements for configuring anti-ransomware. So first and foremost, you must have the correct version of ONTAP running, which is ONTAP 9.10.1 and later. You should also ensure that the correct licenses should be installed for your ONTAP version. Now 9.10.1 requires a multi-tenant key management license. ONTAP 9.11.1 and later requires an anti-ransomware license to be installed. You also need to ensure that there is a NAS workload with clients configured, and the volume to be protected must have an active junction path. Now, it is recommended to configure the EMS system to send email notifications, which will include notices of anti-ransomware activity.
So this is configured on a per volume basis. Is that right, Faisal?
Well, yes, you could configure it at the volume level, and you also have options to set it up on the SVM.
How does anti-ransomware determine that a potential attack may be occurring?
Now, one of the types of ransomware attacks is denial of service to files by encrypting data. Now, ONTAP ransomware protection addresses this specific type of attack. And it does this with an anti-ransomware detection mechanism that's based on two factors. One, identification of incoming data as encrypted or plain text. Number two, analytics, which detects a high data entropy, that's an evaluation of the randomness of data in a file, or there could be a surge in abnormal volume activity with data encryption. There could also be extensions that do not conform to the normal extension types.
And what does it do when it identifies a potential attack?
When an attack is suspected, the system takes a volume snapshot copy at that point in time, and it locks in that copy. And this snapshot copy cannot be deleted by normal means. The anti-ransomware feature also flags an alert, and an email notification is sent out based on your EMS configuration.
In the event of an attack, how would an administrator restore data that has been compromised?
So like I just mentioned, so snapshot copies named anti-ransomware backup are created when the system detects a potential attack. You can restore data from these anti-ransomware copies or other snapshot copies that are available. With the knowledge of the affected files and the time of attack, it is possible to selectively recover the affected files from the various snapshots, or you could simply revert the whole volume to one of the snapshots.
So it's just like restoring from a snapshot that you might schedule or manually create on a volume. Is that correct?
That's absolutely right, Dave. So in addition, it also creates an anti-ransomware snapshot based on the analytics and when it detects a ransomware type of activity.
So what if the storage administrator determines that a legitimate attack is not actually occurring? What happens in a false positive scenario?
That's a good question. So if the activity was an expected workload, one can easily mark it as a false positive. And once that's done, the anti-ransomware machine learning notes the change in workload and no longer flags it as a potential attack. Furthermore, the anti-ransomware snapshot is also automatically deleted.
Thanks, Faisal. Would you like to walk us through a demo of how anti-ransomware is managed?
Absolutely. So what you see here is ONTAP System Manager for one of our ONTAP clusters. So I am in the storage volumes view. And once you determine the volume that you want to turn anti-ransomware on, you click on it to enter the detailed view. And once that loads, you should go into the security tab where you see the anti-ransomware option. So by default, it would be disabled, and you use a toggle switch to turn it on. Okay, so what it's done now is it's enabled the learning mode. And that's when the system is actually looking at the various workloads and creating a baseline of what the expected type of workloads are on that particular volume, the type of extensions that are allowed to be on that volume. Now, it's in the learning mode, and NetApp recommends that the volume stay in the learning mode for at least 30 days, post which we should switch it into the active mode. So now, for the sake of the demo, I'm going to switch it to the active mode right away. So once it's in the active mode, the system is going to actively monitor this volume for any abnormal volume activity, at which point it will create the snapshot copy, the anti-ransomware snapshot copy, and it's also going to send out an email alert based on your EMS configuration. Now, this is one way of turning the feature on at the volume level. Now, if you're interested in turning it on at the SVM for all volumes, what you have to do is come down to storage SVMs and pick any SVM that you're interested in, go to settings, scroll all the way down to security, anti-ransomware, click on edit. And once you check this box, it's going to enable anti-ransomware for all NAS volumes, any new NAS volumes that are created. And if you want to enable this for all existing NAS volumes within the SVM, you just check the second box here and hit save. And it's going to update that in the background, and you're good to go.
So when you enable that, it's setting the existing volumes into learning mode?
Correct. So
okay.
Once 30 days have elapsed, you want to come back in and switch them all into active mode.
So can you do that at the SVM level as well?
No, you'd have to do that one by one.
Okay. Thanks, Faisal. As you can see, anti-ransomware is easy to configure and manage. We hope you find ONTAP Anti-Ransomware to be helpful in providing an additional layer of protection for your most critical data. Thank you.
Thank you.